Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Peaceful Warriors Wellness. Feel better, move better, be better. When you feel better, you feel more like you. And when you move better, there's so much you can do. Be who you were meant to be. Peaceful Warriors Wellness. Feel better, move better, be better. Peaceful Warriors.
Welcome, everybody, to the next edition of the Feel Better, Move Better, Be Better podcast. My name is Scott Roberts.
And I'm Lena Roberts.
And I'm Roma Ostman.
And we're very glad to be your host today. We're broadcasting from our offices here at Peaceful Warriors Wellness Center in downtown St. Petersburg. We're located at 19 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Street South in St. Petersburg. You can find us online at www.peacefulwarriorswellness.com. And you can always give us a call if you have any questions about our services and our therapist at 727-822-8866. More often than not, Roma will be answering the phone and helping guide you through your process of setting up your appointment. So there's that. So what are we going to be talking about today?
I have been seeing all over the news recently about PTSD related to the pandemic. And PTSD is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Maybe not actually to the point where they need to go and get professional help, but they still struggle with PTSD. And that's one of the things that I love.
Let's start with what does PTSD stand for? So the acronym is Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. It's been called a lot of different things for a long period of time. It's something that sounds new, but it really isn't very new. It's been around since the beginning of time, that people have suffered with this type of mental and emotional impact as a result of something in their life that has happened that we lump into life-changing situations and occurrences that are oftentimes very traumatic and sudden.
Yes, very traumatic, very sudden. Mm-hmm. And, you said that PTSD has been around for a long time. I'm sure that some of the cavemen, whenever they would see fire or lightning or whatever, had a little bit of PTSD because of that, because they didn't know what was going on. And they didn't know how to control it or protect themselves.
We called it PTSD, we called it shell-shocked, we called it all sorts of other different things militarily even. Mm-hmm. Seeing a loved one get injured or hurt, being hurt is very traumatic, whether it be emotionally, physically, mentally, etc. So each and every one of us on some level have some form of PTSD in our lives, and it winds up being a matter of what type of coping mechanisms that we've put in place in our life, that we've learned how to manage some of these situations. Some of us do it better than others. Some of us do it better in certain situations than others. There are some situations where any one of us will do very well in that scenario, and then a different type of scenario will rear its ugly head, and we might crumble, whereas mm-hmm. before we were very stoic and ready to go. So it really just depends from person to person and from event to event. It can be very, very different. Mm-hmm. So it's very individualized.
Oh, yeah. It's wild how just something that could happen in a few minutes or a few minutes regularly all the time would take so long to undo, or maybe not even ever undo in your mind.
Right.
Or physically,
So there are a lot of things that go along into it. The thought process is that voice in your head. But physically, what it winds up happening is different organs and glands in your body start secreting hormones and whatnot. It elevates your blood pressure. It clouds your thinking. There's a lot of different physical things that occur in the body as a result of those thoughts that go running through our head almost uncontrolled. It can be in the form of dreams at night while you're sleeping even. It can be thoughts that run through your head in the middle
Yeah.
of your day, and it can be triggered by any number of things. It could be triggered by lights and noise and sounds and
Smells.
smells. Yeah.
It's amazing how a lot of people will tell you that their PTSD, they don't know what triggers them because it's so subtle that they can't even identify it.
Well, a lot of times when you're in a situation, it's difficult to see it from the outside and to identify those things either. 'Cause
Right,
you're so
right.
in it.
That's what I mean. It's not something that you automatically go and you feel and go, oh, this is PTSD symptoms. It's, if you stump your toe, you know immediately, I have stumped my toe and it hurts.
Right.
But with this, it's not as easily to identify, especially for yourself.
So at the beginning of this, we started talking about, more of a narrow focus on pandemic PTSD.
Yes.
But I did think it was important to talk about PTSD in a more broad general, and then bring it back down into the more specific.
Yes.
Well, the last 14 months has been a very interesting time for a lot of people. And the pandemic not only occurred in the last 14 months, but we also had a lot of other external factors that came into play that elevated our level of anxiety and potentially depression as well, whether it be politics, socioeconomic issues, racial issues. There's been a lot of things packed into the last 12 months. So the reason that that's important is you can have 5 different liquids in a cup, right? And each of them separately is 2 ounces. Well, at the end of the day, if you put all 5 things in the same cup, you now have 10 ounces. That's a lot different than 2 here,
Exactly.
2 there, 2 somewhere else. Now you have 10, and they're combining, they're mixing. If you have water-based products and oil-based products, they may not mix very well. They may separate. There's all this stuff, but kind of as a comparison, and what I'm trying to talk about is if you only have an 8-ounce cup and you put in 10 ounces worth of stuff, there's going to be 2 ounces of overflow. So it's really important because our levels of acceptable pressure may have been exceeded during this time in one area or another, or many areas.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
What do you think, Lena?
PTSD, especially whenever you refer it back to the pandemic, is something that goes back to our core basis of breathing and or our core of breathing and depending on one another. We didn't have people beside of us to lean on. We didn't have, quote, people in our camp because we were socially distanced. And it was necessary. Don't get me wrong. I agreed with the science of social distancing 100%. I'm just talking about how it really changed our core beliefs.
Yes.
And now people are, this weekend we went to Daytona on a little weekend getaway. And several times I was very uncomfortable because I realized, oh my gosh, I'm in a crowd of people. What do I do? And I was very nervous right then. And I had to literally talk myself out of what I need to be doing to protect myself and others. Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of got me into this was this weekend of this is how I felt. And this was, I feel like I am pretty good with knowing what my chances are of with the pandemic. I'm vaccinated. I'm doing all the healthy things, but we were outside, but still in a crowd of people.
Oh yeah. Even like watching, television. I was actually talking to, I don't know if you're familiar with the show Twin Peaks. A friend of mine was watching Twin Peaks and it was recorded back in a time where people smoked inside. And so not only was he like, oh my God, like they're not wearing masks. Oh my God, they're smoking inside. it's affected how I view television of I can't just enjoy the plot. I'm now worried about everybody in this fictional show's safety, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Are you
Because you do.
It's affected. I'm sure the same person, him and his roommates, there's 3 children in that house. There's a baby who's 1 year old. There's a 5 or 6 year old, and then a 7-year-old. The 7-year-old's my goddaughter. And it's been wild to see one of them is homeschooled. One of them is going to school. And then there's the baby, who is just, in care. But to see the middle one who's actively going to school, like, she's got her little mask on, she's doing well, but she's so sociable and hyper and doing all these things, but she's been removed from directly playing and with many children to get that energy out. And so thus she has become extremely clingy at home, which is not necessarily bad, but it's still like, oh my gosh, like, she still needs people time. She still needs that hug and affection and care.
Well, we all do.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to make sure that we don't get into a whole lot is get into any sides of any debates on what could happen, couldn't happen, should happen, shouldn't happen. I want to make sure we avoid that for obvious reasons. I think one of the things that's really contributed to this whole situation is the lack of acceptance, compassion, a desire to try to be understanding towards others in general, but especially when it comes to different ideas or views or gathering of information and which sources you use to get that information or don't get that information. But the conflict and the just overall tension that's being created through this pandemic and through this last 14 months has been contributing as much, if not more, to the PTSD than anything else. Because if you say something, you're now being criticized. No matter what you say, you're criticized by somebody somewhere in regards to that. So some people are even more bold about expressing their opinions. Some people are scared to death to express their opinions because of the ramifications that might come from that. So, that's definitely a big part of it too. So we're going to take a quick break here, I think, unless either of you ladies have anything else to add to this particular part of the conversation.
I'm good.
And when we come back, maybe we can talk about how Peaceful Warriors Wellness Center and massage therapy in general may help people in working past any of the PTSD that they may or may not have, or the apprehension or anxiety or depression, any of those types of things. We're not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, we're not doctors, we don't prescribe, we don't do any of that stuff. But there are a lot of benefits that are provided through touch therapies that we provide here in our office to help people that are struggling with some of those things. Did either of you have anything else to add to the subject of PTSD before we get into some of the benefits that we provide?
No, the thing that I want to reiterate though was that just what you said, we are not debating of which way is right. We are just saying that both ways in all situations, everyone was affected by the pandemic in one way or another.
Oh, absolutely.
Most definitely, yeah.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. Again, my name is Scott Roberts.
And I'm Lena.
And I'm Roma.
And we'll be back after these messages.
Hey, Eric Remmel here, producer of the Feel Better, Move Better, Be Better podcast, and I'm here today to tell you about the amazing folks at Peaceful Warriors Wellness Center. Not only am I a producer of the show, but I'm also a client. Their staff of therapists are truly the best at what they do. Now is your chance to check them out for yourself. Go to their website, peacefulwarriorswellness.com, and click Book Now, or give them a call at 727-822-8866. Use the promo code RADIO and get $15 off your first visit. Yes, you heard me right. $15 off your first visit. Now, this is just for a limited time, and make sure to tell them that you heard about it on heliumradio.com.
Welcome back to the Feel Better, Move Better, Be Better podcast. My name is Scott Roberts.
I'm Lena Roberts.
And I'm Roma Ostman.
All right, so in our first segment, we talked a bit about PTSD. We lumped in some other things like anxiety and depression because they're very much a part of the same problem in a lot of ways. And regardless of a diagnosis or lack thereof, Lena pointed out that all of us have been affected in some way, and very likely in a negative way, by the situations that have occurred over the last 14 months or so. So during this segment, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do out there, and some of the things that we do in here that can help people deal with some of these potential problems. One of the first things I wanted to talk about is controlling your environment in a way that allows for, one of my favorite sayings is still, your diet consists not only of what you eat, but what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, and the people you spend time with. Check your diet, right? So go through that list and find out, what are you eating? What are you listening to? Is it positive? Is it uplifting? Is it joyous? Is it something that's going to help you? What are you watching on TV? Are you watching the news? Are you watching fear mongering? Are you watching something that's, again, positive and uplifting? What are you reading to help contribute to yourself and your life and make your, be a better version of yourself? And who are you spending time around? If the 5 people that you spend the most time around with are bought in on all this conflict and noise, chances are you're going to get pulled in or pulled down into it as well. So it's really important to think about that. So what are some other things that you are doing or have done, Lena and Roma, to help manage some of your thoughts and ideas and feelings?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind whenever it comes to any kind of stress relief is massage therapy. It's what we do.
We are a bit biased.
Yes. But massage therapy can help so much in just letting go of the stress that is stored in the muscles. And with anything, just like you were saying about the cup, whenever your muscles are overloaded, they can't take anymore. Something is going to break. Something is going to be dysfunctional about it whenever they are forced to carry more of a load. And that tension that we all carry, sometimes it gets to be too much of a load for the muscles to carry. Massage therapy can help with that. It can also, I'm not going to get into much detail about energy because that's a whole nother podcast on its own. But just being around someone and having someone touch you and you being in a passive state of energy, it really helps pull that energy away from that person.
Especially if that person is in a calm, relaxed state that you're around. I mean, that changes that, factor that I was talking about a few minutes ago. If that's one of the people you're spending time around and they're in that calm, peaceful mindset,
right,
it's going to help you be calm and peaceful instead of panicky.
Exactly.
Getting some fresh air, listening to sounds of nature, whether it be the waves of the ocean that we got to listen to over the weekend.
Yes.
The sounds of birds chirping. There's so many things that we can tune into in our environment that are very calming and relaxing as well.
Roma, what do you do when you're really stressed?
I have a arsenal of activities depending on where I'm at and what the particular thing that is bothering me. And it took a while to really carve those tools out, if that makes any sense. But I know that it truly started with media and video games. Anything for that mental escape was really nice. Something that would my full brain could focus on So being able to emerge in a world where I didn't have those concerns for like an hour or two was really a nice stress reliever. Or they could even be art, like drawing. I do a lot of digital art. I do a lot of creating with friends with podcasting. So those were really great outlets for a while. But then when the pandemic hit, it was either all we did and it became too much because we had all this extra spare time, and it could only help for so long if that was my only tool. So I was in the market to get more outlets for this stress to kind of cope with what's going on in the world. So for Christmas from Stephen, actually, I got this book called Learning How to Walk, and it's in regards to walking meditation. And that kind of started my journey of finding maybe not healthier ways, but more holistic ways of finding relief and something to do that to change my diet, I guess, for what I'm consuming mentally and physically. And it was really nice for the first time to walk in some grass, given it was a patch of grass next to the parking lot, but to be able to be fully present, not hear the cars, to just be like, I'm here, I can feel the dirt, I can feel the grass, I can feel the wind, was a really nice way to release whatever was stressing me out. And it could even be in the office, like I could feel the carpet through my shoes, or I can feel the hum of the water cooler. Like things like that was able to really help me detach from stressors and move forward with my day, which bled into meditation with music, or even being able to just breathe. Learning breathing exercises was absolutely incredible. And it
Power
sounds
of breath
kinda...
is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
When you're being tickled, when you're feeling anxious, you automatically start to hyperventilate. You're only breathing with the first couple of inches of your lung capacity. And that lack of oxygen that your body's getting starts to take away the brain's ability to compartmentalize, to analyze and weigh out the pros and cons. All those things start to become very muddled because of that lack of oxygen. So breathing is absolutely imperative to practicing and learning how to breathe more deeply into your lungs and getting more oxygen. It's a good point.
And I don't know if I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but there is a show I started watching on Netflix to go to sleep at night. And because I used to just watch TV and then like I would eventually just pass out. But the light from the TV began to keep me from going to sleep. So, we started implementing sleep timers on there, but still like we weren't going to bed in a great way to get the full night's rest to help me prevent the stress from the next day. And there's this show called Headspace Guide to Better Sleep. And it is a 18-minute episode where it starts off like giving you fun facts about sleep. Yeah, it's really cool. Like each episode has its own little fun facts about sleep. Like the first one debunks myths about sleep, and the second episode talks about your relationship with technology before you go to bed or throughout the day. But at the end of it, it has a guided meditation to sleep that offers breathing exercises and like kind of helps you visualize your body and like the stress and all that leaving your body. And before, meditation didn't quite work for me all that well, but if you can't really meditate on your own, like definitely look into some sort of guided meditation with a voice that resonates with you, like is extremely helpful, I guess, especially for this ADHD brain like mine.
Yes. This is a side note, but Roma, I think that we should ask Stephen to do a walking meditation downtown. For his,
Think so?
Yeah, I had a girl come in here several years ago that did one that was really, really cool, and we had a lot of interest in it. So, yeah, talk to him about that.
Okie dokie.
I would love for it to be a regular occurrence, but One time would be, let's try it out.
Yeah, see how it goes.
So, Scott, I know we're going to kind of cut this subject off because we're running short on time today, but I really want to talk about what's going on this Memorial Day. I know we're going to do a run, but I want you to...
I would like to add in that your diet and exercise are also two very important coping skills. So make sure that you're looking at whole foods as opposed to processed foods, and make sure that you're adding exercise in so that your body's releasing the serotonins and all those other feel-good hormones will make a big difference in your ability to cope as well. But you're absolutely right. This weekend we're planning on supporting our friends for a Memorial Day benefit ride. It is their website is ride4rhs.org is their website. You can actually sponsor a rider if you would care to donate to this nonprofit organization that is there to help support military families that have lost loved ones in conflicts around the world. And we're going to be out there doing sports massage for the actual ride participants. But there's going to be a after party as well that you can come to and just enjoy the atmosphere and festivities. It's going to be on Monday, Memorial Day, the 31st of May. And that location is going to be at the American Freedom Distillery at 2232 5th Avenue South in St. Petersburg. So it's located right there on the Pinellas Trail. And honor our fallen with a bike ride for a Patriot or with a Patriot on the Pinellas Trail. Proceeds will go to Ride for RHS Heroes and Breaking Barriers.
Our friend Jo Bauer is organizing this, and she has so many people involved in it. And if you have any interest in joining or helping out or donating, just give us a call and we'll gladly set you up with Jo.
Yeah, and the check-in is going to be at 7 a.m. Riders will depart at 8 a.m. and the after party will be at approximately 10 a.m. On site at the American Freedom Distillery. Again, that address is 2232 5th Avenue South. What else? Anything else, ladies?
I think that this has been a very informative podcast.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed, always feel free to reach out and call us. If we don't know the answer right off the top of our head when someone answers the phone, we'll be glad to call you back and help elaborate on anything that you may have as far as questions. So, again, thank you for joining us today in the Feel Better, Move Better, Be Better podcast. This is Scott Roberts.
And I'm Lena Roberts.
And I'm Roma.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.